Welcome, everybody, to a speedrun of Joust NES. How do you speedrun the NES version of Joust? It's an endless arcade game. Well, there is a category called Wave 49. We have discovered that some online information about this game isn't quite accurate, which stated that the last difficulty iteration that the game applies, where you face the toughest enemies in the game, doesn't happen at wave 40, it happens at wave 45. So if you finish the last sequence of waves after wave 45, the game starts repeating seemingly endlessly after that, and again, it doesn't rebirth after wave 90, it continues seemingly endlessly after wave 90 as well. So, the last little goal that we have for a speedrunning category for the main category is beating Wave 49, which proves that you defeated the last difficulty increase in the game. That's what I'm going for here. And I spent many attempts to try to even finish Wave 49 a single time 3 years before this. I took a few years off, came back, and on my second long attempt, I finally did it. And now I'm trying to see if I can do it a bit cleaner and faster. Starting off in these early waves, the game is still unbelievably brutal. Joust NES is an incredibly robust and difficult to control game. It has different physics than the original arcade version, which was released in 1982. This is a HAL Laboratories port for the NES done in 1988, and it plays very differently, very solidly, with a little bit of jank on the environments here and there, but it's incredibly satisfying to control once you get used to everything, and it's basically impossible to master, but you can use a lot of things to your advantage. Unfortunately, we got an early pterodactyl there. We're going to be seeing a lot of that person? Well, a lot of that creature later. If you see the pterodactyl appear before wave 11, you know that the wave was quite slow, because it takes the pterodactyl quite a long time to appear and try to ruin your day, and usually be very successful at it, before wave 11. After wave 11, if you complete the wave before the pterodactyl appears, you know you did the wave very quickly, because after wave 11, the pterodactyl appears pretty soon. So far, we're not getting great luck with spawns. You see that I'm camping out above those spawners to try to get good luck and take out enemies immediately as they're appearing with rhythmic jumping. The way that you defeat enemies in this game is to be at all above them on their hitboxes. If you are exactly pixel level with them, then you tie and bounce off each other. If you are at all below them, then you die. And so I'm going to be using lots of different techniques that I've developed for this game and try to make things as safe as possible, although nothing in this game is truly safe. You can die to anything at any time, because any of the enemies, even the weakest bounders, the Red Riders, the slowest enemies, can do absolutely anything on any frame. And now we're starting to see some of the tougher enemies appear, the enemies in white, the hunters. They move a bit faster, and they have a bit more options to their disposal. And that bounder down there died in the lava, which is good for speed. It takes away some points, which can increase our life counter, which is definitely going to matter later on. We're going to need as many lives as possible every 20,000 points, because as the game's difficulty increases, the ability to actually stay alive consistently all but evaporates. But I'm going to be bouncing off the ceiling very often, because it's impossible, in most cases, to change directions quickly at all in this game. It's all momentum, and it's all very heavy. You can't actually change direction at all in midair. That's a sad death there to the weakest enemy in the game, the Bounder. One of the rules of Joust that I talk about is that you will die to Bounders, and that was kind of poorly played by me in order for that to happen, but anyway, it's impossible to change directions in midair unless you flap. In this game, you don't really run and jump. You can run on the ground, and then you do flaps. You can do infinite flaps in the air, and that only when you're flapping can you change directions in midair. So you want to be grounded at all times to actually have traction and move around. And so to get to the ground as quickly as possible, you can flap as hard as you can, bounce off the ceiling, and that changes your momentum vertically immediately. And so we can use that to get to the ground quickly, but also you can see me using it on the ceiling of that platform as well to drop down on top of enemies faster. It takes away a lot of their variance. Instead of just having to hover in front of them and just pray that they don't do really unreactable things at the last moment and kill you, you can get those ceiling bounces going and track their horizontal motion. And you can also use the ceiling bounces to get to eggs quickly. You can use ceiling bounces in basically every way possible. It's amazing. It's very, very, very helpful. And now we're slowly working our way through this game and getting more points. We are past 100,000 points now, which is one of the other speedrunning categories in this game. That, I took a calculated death there. I knew based on how long things were going and where I was in the timer that the pterodactyl was going to spawn. We like to call the pterodactyl Terry. P. Terry. And so I decided to go for speed there because I know that I have already completed this category, finally. I want to see if I can take off as much time as possible, and that a lot of that comes down to pure luck, especially as we're getting into Wave 20. You're going to start to see why in just a moment. But also, if I can shave off as much time as possible by doing things here and there, like maybe sacrificing a couple of lives to get the pterodactyl off the screen as soon as possible after the wave is already done, I'm going to do that. Here come the Shadow Lords! You didn't get a chance to see him very much in that wave because he spawned right below me, but I trust me, they're there now. Those enemies dressed in blue are the Shadow Lords, and they are the main reason why it is almost impossible to play this game deep into the game. At least it certainly was for me for a long time. It was impossible for me, it seemed, to even get past Wave 49, which is, as we have now discovered, barely even scratching the surface of how far you can get in this game. And thankfully we're not having to really deal with that single Shadow Lord yet, but it's not going to be a single Shadow Lord for long. You see, it's very likely for the pterodactyl to appear right at the end of a wave, even after the enemies are gone, because the pterodactyl still has a chance to spawn, while the points from your last kill and egg collection are on the screen. That's how long it takes for the game to understand that the wave is no longer active, once the final bit of points are no longer on the screen. So my goal is to try to clear out every single wave before Terry is a main player on the screen. If a lot of enemies are still flying around, and then Terry becomes one of them, it's just pure mayhem. And even without Terry, you're gonna see it's gonna be pure mayhem regardless very soon. But so far, things are going incredibly well. This is a pretty good start. I've had much faster starts than this, but we haven't had any pure disasters yet. We've had some regrettable deaths, like I took one at the beginning of that last wave, because I was trying to stay at that spawner as long as possible, just to see if the Shadow Lord was going to spawn there, so I could get him off the field as soon as possible. And it did work out, although I traded a death for it. Now we're going to see 2 Shadow Lords in this next batch of waves. You see? Oh, that's not a great death. So if I start taking some early deaths at the beginning of waves, and I spawn really low, and then every other enemy is just flapping like mad above me in a giant swarm, you can see that one of the other rules of Joust is 1 death is actually 10 deaths in disguise. The later you get in the game, if you die early in a wave, and even if you don't die that early, if you just get in the game in a bad mood where it decides it's never going to let you get into a winning position again, then your lives just melt. This is so far, to our current knowledge, a completely unsolvable game. The arcade version is much more solved. Not truly solved and completely easy to play infinitely, but people can camp out at Joust arcade cabinets and do high score attempts into the tens of millions, as far as I know, for many hours at a time. This game is not like that at all. Because the AI is just... By the way, there go 3 lives. There go 4 lives. I didn't play that perfectly. I started to panic a little bit, I will admit that. But there are many situations in this game where there is no way back up. There is no way to not die 5 times in a row. That was not great, but thankfully, even though I took quite a few deaths, and it was a bit of a disaster wave, it happened fairly quickly, because in speedrunning terms, that's the way I want things to go. If things are to go wrong, at least they can go quickly wrong. And then I can get back on track, and then try to keep as many lives as possible after the disaster waves. And again, so much of that is not up to me, especially as we go deep into the 30s now, and the Shadow Lords just keep on coming more and more and more. Not deep into the 30s. We're just now entering the 30s. This is where it's... all the bounders are now gone, which is honestly kind of a good thing, because it is most annoying to me when every single enemy type is on the screen at the same time, and so you have to deal with all of their different little quirks and all of their different little ways that they can get in your way and cause you problems. Now it's just Hunters and Shadow Lords. I'm at the point now where I actually prefer the parts of the game where it's just Shadow Lords, which is what's going to happen at Wave 45, which is why the category is beating Wave 49, because then you've completed the, as I said, the sequence of waves after the final difficulty increase. That's my favorite now, because you know it's just all Shadow Lords, you know it's all chaos, you kind of know what to expect, which is to expect the unexpected. Hunters love to completely stay locked on the ceiling. Shadow Lords will often bounce on the ceiling, which gives them a chance to be lower than you more often than the Hunters do. They like to perfectly glue themselves to the ceiling. And so Hunters can annoy me a lot more in that way. And Shadow Lords, it seems like they have a better chance of accidentally just flying straight into your booty to their deaths. And that feels so good. And you know what else feels good? Those spawns. That was amazing. That's exactly what we need right now. After we've had a lot of unfortunate deaths and a lot of iffy waves, that was big. We still lost a bit of time compared to the previous world record, but that was huge to get us back on track in a speed sense. And that sort of wave can happen at any time. That is what we're hoping for every single time. Good spawns, and then the Shadow Lords to behave like that and just come straight into me as I'm camping at the ceiling. This is my new strategy from basically wave 20 onward. Anytime a Shadow Lord is present on the screen, I go straight to the ceiling and take a page out of the Hunter's book and try to glue myself there with very rhythmic flaps to try to not give a single pixel of leeway between me and the ceiling, to give myself the best possible chance that if an enemy is going to contact me, it's either going to be a tie or me killing them. And unfortunately, I wasn't close enough to the ceiling there. But it's not just me flapping rhythmically and trying to stay as close to the ceiling at all times. I'm also very, very, I'm trying to do some incredibly fine movements as well. As I'm reading the screen, I'm seeing what's coming from all angles, from all corners, all types of enemies, including through the screen wrap. You see, obviously, one of the features of this game is that it's an endless screen wrap. You go, like that Hunter did, from the right side of the screen, or from the left side of the screen all the way to the right, from the screen transition. And you have to be vigilant of every single enemy, not just moving on the main screen, but what they're going to be doing in the screen wrap. And that's one of the skills you have to really develop to be able to get any sort of longevity in this game, is to be able to be perfectly vigilant at all times of all situations and try to stay 5 steps ahead of every single enemy, which at times becomes completely impossible, but you have to try. We are now at 10 lives. That was a pretty good sequence of waves. We saved a lot of time compared to world record there. Now we're starting to gain a little bit of momentum. And you know what else? It's time for the 40s. This is the last sequence of 10 waves. And this is the last we have to see of the Hunters. Hopefully things go well here. This is a good start to this wave. Things are starting to really get real. As soon as you get into the 40s, you know that you might have it, and you have decent lives, which I do here. You know you're starting... I missed that egg! Oh no. And I managed to not die to Terry there, so we still have 11 lives. Again, as I said earlier, we're at the point of the... Oh, this is amazing luck! They're just cooperating. I just barely missed that guy. But as I said earlier, we're at the part of the game now. Perfect. That was embarrassing, but what can you do? Where a single death, especially early on in a wave, could actually be 10 deaths in disguise. 2 quick deaths there, not much time lost, we're still fine, we still have 10 lives. But if I die early in any of these waves, not only could I lose like 30 seconds, I could lose all of my lives. And there might not be anything I can do about it, but this is going incredibly well. Holy heck, they all cooperated. I missed both of those eggs, and so that made Terry appear. That was... The egg detection areas for collecting are like 1 pixel. Sometimes the egg goes straight through the center of your body, and you don't pick it up. Joust is perfect. But hopefully we can still get some good behavior, and they just keep collecting into me like moths to a flame. Yes, that is a satisfying ending. Oh my goodness. Those waves went by in basically a blink of an eye. And now we're in the final sequence of 4 waves that you actually have to survive, because these egg waves are just a nice break. Before we finish this run, can we possibly avoid any last disasters? This has been obscenely clean. We've had a couple of annoying waves, but no real actual disaster waves. That's, I mean, at least we got 2 of them there. Okay, only 2 left, but something we haven't been seeing so far is that a single Shadow Lord can survive for up to 30 seconds and just be completely unkillable. That was a decent ending. Okay, I survived that. It wouldn't have been that bad to die there. I would still have 10 lives, and I would have shaved some of the time off of having to wait for Terry to leave the screen. But we could need that life. We could end this with 0 lives remaining. If just one little bit of things goes too wrong. But now we are into the open stage area, which is my favorite. It's the easiest to maneuver around. Unfortunately, that's true for the enemies as well. But if I die early here, I might have a better chance to survive. We're at least probably gonna finish this run. Okay. I lost that interaction there. Could have gotten more lucky, but my luck has been obscene. Throughout this entire comeback to Joust NES, my luck has been so good. And I've been playing the variants. I've been playing, I'm just gonna take the death there. I'm going to just go purely for time, because I'm gonna try and go for the first ever sub 18 in Wave 49 completion. That was a little unlucky, but 1 enemy left. Please don't do it. Please don't do it. Please don't troll me. Oh no. Oh, we got him. This is gonna be close. Is it gonna be the first ever sub 18 in Wave 49? You bet it is. 17:54. The new world record. And as it stands, still the Wave 49 completion world record in Joust NES. And that was, at the time, I believe, my 4th completion of Wave 49. And it's incredible how well that went. So many waves, so many really, really fast waves, and so few disaster waves. In fact, I'd say there were 0 true disaster waves. Even when I took a ton of deaths, it all happened really quickly. And I still have 11 lives at this point, and so I can survive as long as I'd like. Well, that is like the most untrue thing I could possibly say. What a lazy misspeak. I can last as long as the game lets me. But having more lives is better than having less. That is still true, but it almost... If the game decides that your run is over, it doesn't matter how many lives you have. But yes, that was a very, very satisfying new world record in Wave 49. I played quite well. I managed to react to every single situation in a way that saved me as much time as possible. I used all those ceiling bounces. When I noticed that there were chances that I could abandon staying locked to the ceiling and go even... Oh, nice accidental Terry kill there. And dive bomb enemies. I took those chances and they worked out. Like, so many things just worked out, and that's what has to happen for you in Joust NES. You just have to play 100% perfectly every single moment, or else you could lose 10 lives in a minute in one mistake. And you have to get 1,000% lucky every single moment, or else you could lose a minute and 10 lives. It's just so much. Just to play this game normally. It's not even like we're like, yes, I'm speedrunning this, but I'm also just kind of trying to play the game normal as I do it. I'm just hoping things go decently well. I'm not doing anything that special. I'm just trying to play the game as intended. And even that is so much to ask. Because this game is so unbelievably brutal. It's one of the most ridiculous and cruel games that I've ever played. That was a bit unfortunate there. Now we're starting to see the game start to show its fangs a little bit more. But at least we already got the world record done. I hope you all enjoyed that run of Wave 49 for Joust NES, and hopefully the commentary was entertaining or informative for you. Let's see how far this run can go. We're into the deep 50s now. At the time of this run, the world record that I had seen shared online, on YouTube at least, there was a run for the Famicom version that made it to Wave 86 and got past 1 million points, which is by far the deepest I'd ever seen anyone get in the game, and the most points I'd ever seen anybody accrue. So, and we're starting to take way too many deaths here. We're starting to lose those interactions. The game is starting to not be as interested in doing that perilous dance that we have to do in order to play this game for any length of time. The more difficult enemies appear, it's not as interested in letting the dance happen anymore. And as soon as its mood changes, there's not that much you can do. We still have 7 lives, which is nothing to work with, but it's just they evaporate. When you lose that momentum, that luck momentum, it's just it's over so fast. But we might be able to make it to the 60s here. Yikes. It's always interesting whenever, like 5 times in a row, at least one of them is about to rise into you and die, but they keep tying with the other enemies right below you and just keep dispersing perfectly. That's always like, come on, man. I'm too low here. I've got to get higher. I was lucky to tie there. Oh, it weaved perfectly below me. This is just beautiful chaos to me. I have so much fun in these only Shadow Lord waves. An enemy is going to revive there. So if you leave the eggs sitting for too long, as you just saw, then another bird will come in. A new rider will hatch, which will summon another bird to come in and revive a new enemy. And it's always one enemy type above the one that died to create the egg. So in the Shadow Lord's cases, it's always just going to be more Shadow Lords. I wonder if it's even in the game's code for a bounder to hatch from an egg. I doubt it. But that would be really interesting. Oh, we had somebody phase through a platform. That's always fun to see. So many interesting and entertaining and sometimes even helpful glitches can happen in this game. Lots of phasing through platforms and people falling into the lava, but it's at a certain seam of the corner, and so they instead screen wrap from the bottom to the top of the screen. That's always unique. But it's an incredibly well-made game. As you can see, even with 8 enemies on the screen and the player, no lag, no slowdown. Very, very impressive for an NES title. Just like, it would be nice to have lag. It would make it way easier to get deep in this game and actually survive and react to things, because the Shadow Lords are too fast to actually humanly react to, especially with AI that is completely inconsistent at all times. Lag would be nice. It would help. As long as inputs don't always get eaten, it would completely help you react to things and get way deeper into the game. But no lag at all to speak of. This has been a good wave. Unfortunately, I was just barely too low there, and then I misread things and tried to leave too early. I thought I had an opening, and I didn't. Now our lives are perilously low. Maybe we can make it to 700,000 points. Oh my. We're in trouble. Okay. It's just, it feels so good. It's so satisfying when they just come straight into you like moths to a flame. It feels so... It's so much dopamine. Yes, and then I need to start doing that more. Nice corner bounce from Terry. That's one of the glitches. One of the little bits of jank that can happen on the environments. And the double pterodactyl can appear if you take way too long. That's okay. We've made it to wave 65, and we did get to 700,000 points. The Shadow Lords give you so many points that it actually can allow you to outpace the lives you lose to them just naturally, because it's impossible to not lose lives to them if you're a human being playing without cheating. With current known strategies, and we know of no way to solve this game yet. And maybe that'll change someday, but I don't anticipate that it will. It seems like there's no way, no strategies that work for every single wave at all times. But you can actually survive, like, even when you're at super low lives, you can survive for a long time if you get lucky enough, because they give you lives fast enough with their points. Very nice. I have survived for at least 10 waves before, with having been from 0 lives. So that's a very, like, this game can teach you the never give up mentality. We're almost at the promised land of wave 69. Can we make it there, or will this be our grave? This absolute swarm of chaotic birds. So far, it looks like we're actually gonna make it. Oh, nice! Perfect height gain there. This could take a while. We're completely at their mercy. When there are this many of them left, I'm not going to go after any individuals because that gives the other ones a perfect opportunity. Oh, I didn't bounce off his head? It made me go straight through him instead, and I should have bounced off that bounder's head. The Shadow Lord's head, and it would have let me avoid the pterodactyl, but okay, we're at wave 69. We at least made it there. Only 2 lives left. We are not outpacing the lives lost here. Terry? No, okay. Almost at 800,000 points here. So this all could have gone way better. Our luck is definitely not nearly as good as it was during the body of the wave 49 attempt, but we're close to 800,000 points, which is a really nice accomplishment there. But it looks like we're not going to get as deep as that incredible run on the Famicom version on YouTube, which I really need to start remembering the name of that channel. It does a lot of long plays of retro games, and they did an incredibly impressive run of Joust for the Famicom, using different strategies than mine. They did a lot of waiting in the lower part of the screen after they died, and they don't wait at the spawning points, just standing there and jumping. They stay airborne and try to... Oh no. Oh, I think the game is done with me. I think it's decided that this is over. We made it to 800,000 points though. But it's not letting me win any of these interactions anymore. So it looks like our final resting place will be wave 71. We made it to the 70s, past 800,000 points, and we got the wave 49 world record. What a run. Feels awesome. Hope you enjoyed that run. Thank you so much for watching that one.